Hey, what's up? This is Gerardo Morillo. In this video, you will learn how to behave around an authority. What is an authority? An authority is an expert or someone with power or social status. So when we think about authorities, we usually think about cops, and this is because cops have power and we are punished if we do wrong. But authority is generally someone who has more status in relations to, let's say, yourself, me, or anybody else. So when we were little kids, the authority in our household were who? They were our parents. Our parents had the authority because they're older than us, they're wiser than us, they have more experience than us, and they were the authority in their household. In fact, well, they even made us, so I guess that gives them power to some degree. So going back to the main topic at hand, how to behave around an authority. Authorities want respect and they want to be recognized. So when we're talking about these types of people who have kind of rise up the social ladder a bit, the social hierarchy, they want to be recognized. They want to be respected in a positive way. So when you go up the social ladder, people think differently, and people's egos and people's self-esteem goes higher as well. People's self-esteem for numerous different reasons. But when you're with an authority, you want to show them respect. You want to show them that you appreciate, respect what they had to say. And I'm saying this because if you are someone who has less social status than they are, if you have less social status than they do, then what happens is it's perceived as very disrespectful for the lower social status person to disrespect the higher social status person. So let's talk about in a work environment. When your boss hires you, your boss hires you to essentially do what you're told, do the job, and get the job done. So what happens if you don't obey the boss? What happens if you choose to do your own thing? The boss has the ability to fire you. And what that means is, you don't get money, you don't get paid. And this is also, the main reason is because you're punished. That's why they have authority. You're punished if you do the wrong thing. And this is why, we feel a certain type of way around authority, bosses, or anyone who has higher power than us. In fact, even when you're around an authority, you can notice something happening differently with yourself. You're not the same. Like, how you hang out with your boys, or you hang out with the girls, or whatever, depending on what gender you are. You're so relaxed, you're so carefree, it doesn't matter. But when you're with your boss, you're more you're more stiff, you're more nervous, you're more tense, you're more careful about what you say. You're not really yourself, but you are yourself, but not really. Like, you're like a shyer version of yourself. And this is because this again has to do with the fact that the boss can punish us, but also has to do with the gap of status. Somewhere with us humans, we seem to kind of have this like instinct of status. When someone around us has a higher status, we seem to surrender ourselves to their leadership or their dominance or their frame. And what I mean by this is that when we're around people with authority or people with power, we seem to get submissive. We seem to surrender ourselves to them. And I don't know if you ever noticed that. So it's something to pay attention to. Next time you're around a cop, see how you behave differently. See how you feel different. It also can be like when you're going to, like, even in a school environment, like you you're a student there. You have less status. So the person who's in charge is the teacher for that classroom. So presumably the teacher is the one that's going to be doing the most talking and this and that. And you could have even more knowledge than that teacher, but in that kind of classroom setting, the teacher is in charge. And there's a couple of reasons for this. I mean, the teacher is being paid to do that. That's pretty much the main reason there. And he has the frame of mindset that he's going to be the one that's going to be leading the environment. So that's basically it has to do with that's his job. So he's going to be the one leading. But what's interesting is well, why doesn't nobody else just say, hey, no, teacher, no, I want to teach the class today. I know what I'm talking about. How come that doesn't happen? And a lot of these things are kind of like invisible social rules. We know not to do these things for a lot of different reasons. So we let the person who's in charge, the person with the expertise, or the person who has the authority to lead the way. But what's also interesting is that we tend to surrender our frame to people who have more social status than we do. And we also tend to feel maybe a slightly uncomfortable with people who have more status than we do. And we tend to feel a little nervous around our boss because we're afraid of the consequences. So these are certain reasons why those type of things happen. Now, how should you behave around the boss? You should actually behave, or not just a boss but authority. You should actually just be respectful. That is kind of like the social protocols. Be respectful, listen to what they have to say, and assume they are kind of in the right. Unless, and the exception is, exactly what you're saying is true, and it's truer than what they're saying, so you override what they're saying. But in the social situations, you want to respect the person who has the authority, the person who has the social status, and you don't want to make them look bad, because this kind of hurts the environment. The environment will kind of look at that authority, and then they will kind of look, oh, this guy is not strong, this guy is not worthy, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, this guy is not a real leader, and then the authority gets in trouble, and then he gets dropped in status, and it's very complicated. So we have a lot of these kind of instincts that kind of to keep certain things in order, and also to avoid certain kind of issues. So also in the workplace, we don't correct our boss. That's not something that's considered the correct thing to do. Now, you can correct the boss and you can say certain things. And it's not like you have to be completely submissive, but you have to be very careful with how you do it, because the boss is coming from the frame that he's the leader, he's the one in charge. So when you're correcting that boss or that person, what tends to happen is that this person's ego will kind of feel disrespected. This person will just feel almost violated, that you almost attack them directly, even though you may be logically correct. Even though when you are in the right and you say, no, Mr. Boss, it's actually this way. This person will, most of them will be disrespected by this, because they come into authority because they want to be an authority figure. This is most of the time. There are certain people, though, who don't let the power get to them, who are very humble. And with these people, you can give them your input, because they're more, I guess maybe they're more mature, they're more wiser, or they just have a better way of looking at the leadership position. Because a true leader doesn't really need to be a tyrant. That's not what true leadership is. True leadership is someone like Magic Johnson, who lets other people shine, or a lot of these people who are wise, but also let people speak, who let people give input. And that's a real true leader. Someone who's wise and kind enough, but yet strong enough to control the frame of the environment and the social interaction. Someone who lets people be themselves, but still leads them to the right direction. All right, to sum up this video, to behave around an authority figure or someone with higher power, you want to give them respect. And we do this automatically. We automatically tend to surrender our frame to someone who has more status than we do. And we also tend to feel uncomfortable around people with authority or more social status. It's almost as if we know on an instinctual level not to mess up, not to do something that's going to cause any issues for ourselves. Because one of the worst things you could do is get in trouble with the authorities for any kind of social environment. If you're going to correct the boss or an authority or someone with more status than you do, try to make it as soft and gentle as possible. Oh, hey, that's a pretty good idea. Did you ever check out XYZ? Did you ever... Okay, I understand what you're saying. Did you ever take a look into this? This might be something you may want to consider. So when you're kind of correcting them, you want to do it as soft as possible. This way that you avoid any kind of ego issues or ego tag. This way they don't feel disrespected. Because one of the worst things you can do is offend the person who is paying you, or offend this person who is in a higher position than you are. And I'll explain more in depth about this sort of thing in a different video, but this one is more direct and to the point. I hope you like this video. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also, be sure to check out my website, prosperityLifeHacks.com. I also have an ebook called Manifest Shortcuts, and I have my ebook, Dominate the Online Business Game, for free on my newsletter. So if you want to learn about how to become an online entrepreneur, some tips, strategies, and how to understand life to make sure that you make more money, feel free to sign up for my newsletter. It is free. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time.